presenting the paper on behalf of my great colleagues, Jakob Tholander and Chiara, who is also here today, and Rossitto and Mattias Jacobson, who couldn't be here. In the paper, we work with waste management in large urban department complexes, which has seemed to be very difficult due to both social and technical and cultural aspects that clashes in these collective waste management contexts. There's a lot of different actors involved in waste management, and for some people it is largely a non-activity that they want to get over with, while for others they are very invested in it, and therefore there are some different clashes between the perspectives on it. Meanwhile, it's a very central part of caring for the environment, both from a regulative perspective, but also from an ethical perspective. Prior attempts at addressing waste management has focused mainly on individual behavior change techniques, which does not engage with all of these different actors and actions that constitute this multi-apartment collective waste management. So in this project, we therefore turn towards a feminist ecological perspective on designing for stewarding for sustainable transitions, namely the digital environmental stewardship. Digital environmental stewardship builds upon Bennett's environmental stewardship framework, which can be seen up here, by acknowledging that changes happen as a result of both different actors and motivations, different capacities, and actions in a context. By addressing the issue with which the role of technology should have in caring for the environment, and introducing concepts such as voting in action, digital environmental stewardship extends upon the environmental stewardship framework and provides ways for researchers and for designers in HDI to work with environmental care from a more holistic perspective. Digital environmental stewardship has mainly been used as an analytical lens, but in this project we did an attempt at using it as a generative framework guiding the design process, designing with it in a waste management context. Here you can see the setting of the study. It's an overview picture of the apartment complex where there are 5 apartment buildings with 4 recycling rooms that are shared by all these different buildings. And while this looks like a very closed context, there are a multitude of different actors who enters and exits this context on a daily basis. And besides the residents living there, we also are a very diverse group of people, both young and old, and people working and pensioners. There's a lot of different kinds of people here. There's also the whole management layer where we have a condominium association, there is a housing community, and there is a housing administration company, besides all the different waste collecting companies and waste collectors. So these different entities, they greatly influence waste management in the apartment complex, and that we needed to look at ways to engage these in the study. We choose to do both interviews, in-situ interviews and observations. We had people send postcards from the recycling rooms where they reflected upon the challenges and the opportunities for both for technology but also for altering different practices related to waste management. And then we also did a series of workshops, both analytically focused workshops and design focused workshops with both residents and different actors from the management entities here. In designing our methods, we use the digital environmental stewardship framework to guide our choices, and you can see the paper for more detail on how we did this. Using digital environmental stewardship as this framework made us able to identify several challenges for waste management. First is that we identified a perceived lack of motivation from different groups of residents due to them not staying in the apartments for too long. Also, they're not developing a sense of care for the context. And this was one of the factors that led to a lack of communal care. We also outlined a number of invisible actions as those carried out by Sub-Unit, which was an informal waste management group that was formed by both residents and management to handle spontaneous issues with waste sorting in the context. And also invisible actors such as care personnel who do not have access to all the different recycling rooms and who are also not paid for doing waste sorting after they have been visiting one of the residents. There are also challenges related to limitations in infrastructural capacities, that there are 4 rooms and 5 buildings, which made it so that it's not clear which one is designated to which building. And there are blurred understandings between the responsibilities of different layers in the different management layers in the context. Having these challenges in mind, we did a number of design explorations with residents and management. We found that multiple possible designs for combating some of the challenges that occur with multi-apartment waste management, such as a system for rearranging bins, which would make it so that there are not gaps between bins, and therefore people would be less likely, at least that was the perception, be less likely to place bulky waste between bins. Also, for showing the monetary cost of misplacing waste, and for providing an overview of the bin status, using, for example, sensor technology, as the images from our operations show, at least to some extent. For example, the idea of having an overview of the bin status was a result of discussions among participants about how they do recycling. They often do recycling as part of activities such as going to work or going and doing their groceries, which meant that they were walking to their car or the bus or the bicycle, and not knowing if the recycling room in that direction is full. So when they arrived to a full recycling room, it was seen as a demotivational factor if they found out at that point that it was full, and therefore they might throw their garbage in the general waste bins instead. Instead, knowing if bins were full before leaving their apartment would allow them to plan their routes accordingly and combat some of these challenges. In the paper, we discussed more in depth some of the pros and cons with the different design configurations. The takeaway from the project is that this feminist ecological perspective on designing for waste management has several benefits that go beyond the individual behavior change techniques. Designing with digital environmental stewardship allows for the identification of both visible and invisible actors through the exploration of not only the user but also all of the actors that affect the users in different ways. It allows us to introduce data as a capacity in the design process. We did so by logging data from the recycling rooms and using that in order to gain understandings of how the rooms were used, and also how the experiences of the room use was, and thereby trying to open up for some of these tensions between perceived use and actual use. And it also allowed us to carefully evaluate each of our design explorations based on how they introduce new capacities, how they introduce new actors and actions, and how this might change the practice of managing waste, how these actions fall into each other. One example could be a very common example that came up was surveillance in these different recycling rooms, which we discussed could be a solution to one kind of problem, but it would also entail a physical capacity of installing different cameras and having server capacity to store these videos, and an actor who would have to do the monitoring of these surveillance actions. So therefore, we could start evaluating how some of these proposed solutions or at least explorations would play out in practice. That was all for me. Thank you so much again.